Hi friends, welcome to Programming Made Easy. This is Santosh Avalamurthy. Today we are going to see a very important aspect of programming, that is file processing. As you all know, if you are into any kind of programming or any kind of application development, mostly we deal with the files, either as input or as the output. So today we will see how to read the files for processing. And this is a must know for everyone who wants to do programming using Python, because as I just told, any application development includes file processing. Friends, if you are not subscribed to my channel, do subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to get the notifications whenever I publish the videos. So what are the various file types we are going to see today? So these are the most popular file types. So if you know how to process these file types, then you will be covering, or we will be covering, the major types of files that are used in our day-to-day programming. There are, one is the text format, then CSV format, that is comma separated format, where the various fields are separated using comma. Then we will be seeing XLS format, XML format, that is extended markup language, then PDF, and finally Json format. So this session will not be having much of the PPT slides. So we directly get into the coding, where I will be showing you how to read each of these file types. And remember, so what I have done is, basically I have created all these file types. They are available in my folder. So you can see here sample text.txt, sample.pdf. Then I have students.csv, students.json, students.xls file, and the XML file. So what actually I have done is, I have used the same student information in different types of file types, that is CSV, JSON, XLS, and XML. Purpose of this particular session, so I have created all the file types here. So I'm using students information for CSV, JSON, XLS, and XML files, whereas I'm using text for text format and PDF format. Let's quickly see the content of these files. So when you talk about CSV, you can see here the different fields are separated by comma. So comma acts as a separator. So this is having 4 fields: roll number, first name, last name, standard, and section. Similarly, I have the JSON file, which is in the same fields. They are having the same fields. This is my JSON format, having same roll number, first name, last name, standard, and section as the fields. Then I have XLS files. Again, it is having the same information in XLS format. And finally, XML format, that is also containing the same information. So here we will be seeing how to read each of these files. So this is my text format, and the same content I have put it in my PDF format also, right? So let's start how to read each of these files and how to process the data. So I'm going to start with text format first. So this is my path where all the files are present, which I'll be using. So my path is equal to okay. So this is our file path. So first we will see how to read a text file. So you will come across one of these files, not the PDF file always, but remaining files we get to process many a time. So it is very important to understand how to read these files. So first, if you talk about any file process or any process of involving the files, there are three key steps which you need to remember. First, we have to open the file. Second one, we need to process the contents. And third, we need to close the file. So if we don't close the file, then other applications will not be able to use the file again, especially if you have opened it in a write mode. So since here we are processing the files, we are only going to read the content. So we'll be opening the files in a read format. So this is the path and this is my file name. So file name is equal to path plus what is my file name here, sample text.txt. Right? Now, as I told, the first step is to open the file. So that we can do by using open command. So you need to give the file name and what is the mode we are using. Normally there are multiple types of modes. You have read mode, write mode, append mode, or you want to read and write in the binary format. So since it is a plain text, we are just opening in a read format. You will be surprised to see how easy it is to process the files in Python. It just couple of lines or few lines of code is all you need to do any type of file processing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read all the lines of the files by using read lines command. So there is read line as well as read lines. Read line is one line at a time. Read lines, it will read all the lines and returns a list object. Now lines is my list object. Now let's print line by line. For line in lines, print line. That's it. We are done. So let's save this file, give it a name. So I'm going to save it in the same path so that I can share this file to you later while I upload the video so that you can refer to this file later. So file processing. Okay. So let us see what is the output of this. Okay, I need to move to this folder. Next is file processing.py. So Python file processing.py, and this is my output. Okay, so this is the same content of my line. You can see here, starting from here, Python is an interpreted high level language. Done. So with just 4 lines of code, you are able to read the text file. Now, one thing we are missing is to close the file. fp dot close. So I hope it's very clear for all of you. Open the file, read the content of the file. So in this case, when you use read lines function, then it returns a list containing all the lines as a list. Okay, then you use the loop and then we can read line by line. Now here, if you want to process the line, we can write our logic here, right? So next what we will do, so we will see how to process a CSV file. So I'll comment this Okay. Now my file name is equal to path plus students.csv. Okay. Now there are multiple ways to read the CSV file. One of the way is to use the previous code, and here for each line we can split the line by using the comma, and then we get again the same list which we can use it for processing. But here, since comma also can be part of our text sometimes, so we're going to use standard module called CSV, which makes reading CSV file very easy. Now, in order to use CSV module, I need to first import the module here, that is import CSV. Now, once we import the CSV module, let's see how to open it. So my rows equal to csv.reader open file name. What is the file we need to open? That is file name, and we need to open in read format. That's it. It's one line of code to read the CSV. Now the rows is nothing but, again, it's a list. Okay. Now I can loop this to go through the individual lines of your CSV file. So for row in rows, we'll print row. Okay. So let's see what will happen after this. Then we can extend this particular code. Okay. So you see here, so roll number, basically rows returns you the list of list, and individual row we are processing here, where you can see the roll number and all is there. Then all the individual lines of your CSV is returned as individual list. Now suppose if you don't want to read the header, that is fine, you can pass an additional parameter to this CSV reader where we can ignore the heading. Okay. Now I want to access the roll number. So how do I do that? How do we access a particular index? Print row of 0. Okay. Now let's see what happens. You can see here. So here it is roll number, then 1, 2, 3. So that's all folks about reading CSV. As you see, it is very simple. It takes one line of code to read the CSV, which returns you list of lists. Then you go through, loop through individual list, and then you will be able to access each and every column in your CSV file. Right? So let's move on to the next file type. Okay, let me put a comment here. So next we will see XLS file. So if you see, XLS or XLX is a very popular type of data for processing. So most of the times we get the data either in XLS or XLSX format. So let's see how to read XLS file. Now in order to read XLS, we are going to use the module called XLRD, So in order to use the module, you need to import the module XLRD. Now for people who don't know the structure of XLS file, so let me explain it very quickly how the Excel file, what is the structure of Excel file. Now in case of Excel, it is very important for you to know about workbook, worksheet, row and column. Now this whole document students.xlsx, that is called as workbook. That is the main file, main container for the XLS. Now within the workbook you can have multiple number of worksheets. Like here we have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. Now within the sheet what we have is rows and columns. Now these are the row numbers, row 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are my columns A, B, C, D, E. So basically this is first row and this is your first column. A is first column, B second, C third, like that, and this is my rows 1, 2, 3, 4. So the main container, that is called as the file itself, the main file container is the workbook. Workbook will have sheets and sheets will have rows and columns. So please keep this in mind whenever you want to process XLS file. Now once I imported the module, so next step is to give the file name. So file name is equal to path plus students.xlsx. Now the first and foremost thing to process any XLS or XLS file is to connect to the workbook. So you need to get the workbook object. So that is workbook is equal to XLRD dot open workbook and give the file name, that is file name. Now we open the workbook, then we need to get the object of the sheet, because sheets are one which have rows and columns which contains the actual data. Now worksheet is equal to workbook dot sheet by. Now here if you see, there are two functions, sheet by index, sheet by name. So if you know the name of the sheet, you can get it by sheet by name function, where you have to pass the name of the sheet. Like in our case, it was sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. That is the standard sheet names provided by XLS file. Now you can put your own name. So if you know the name, you can access by sheet by name. So in this case, we are going to access by index. Remember, all the index will start from 0. So we are going to access the 0th sheet. Correct? So now let's read the sheet row by row. Now here the row number will start from 0. In our case, row number 0 is the heading. We don't want to read the heading. So I'm going to put my row index as 1. That means I want to read from the second row, not from the first row. But if you want to read from the first row, you have to put the index as 0. Now while true, because since we don't know how many rows are there, how many rows of data are there in an Excel file, so we are going to do the infinite loop till we get an exception. Now when that exception comes, that means we have read the full content of the Excel file. So we'll put try catch, try except, try. Now we are going to read from the second row. So I want to print the values of the columns of all the columns which I need: roll number, first name, last name, standard, and section. So please observe here how we are going to write it. So print. Now, when you are doing concatenation, we cannot concatenate integer to string. So in order to concatenate, you have to convert all the integer to strings, string, integer, float. So for that, we'll be using str. And there is one issue with Excel, that is when you get the value from the Excel. So this is actually 1, 2, 3, but when you read it using XLRD provided functions, it returns as a float value. 1 will become 2.0, 12 will become 12.0. So in order to avoid, we are going to convert the value that is returned from the function to integer, and then we are going to convert the integer back to string in order to do the concatenation. Okay, so print, I want to convert the integer value. Now what is the integer value I need? Integer of worksheet. So this is a function to get the value. Worksheet dot cell, you need to pass the row number and the column number, that is row index comma 0. Okay, so worksheet dot cell row comma column gives you the value. It reads the value from the Excel and it gives us the output. Since we need integer of the output, we are converting it to integer, and then we are converting the integer to string because I need to concatenate. Now this integer conversion and then integer to string is required only for the values which are integer types, that is roll number and section. For others we don't need, so I can directly call worksheet dot cell row index comma 1, because now I need the first cell, that is first name. Okay, same way I am going to get the values of other cells also. So this is 2. Okay, so let's stop with these many cells. Now we are reading 3 values: roll number, first name, and last name. Okay, and then we are printing the value, except when I get the exception, I'm going to break. Okay, so that's all to read the XLS file. So you can extend this program to read the other cells of the Excel. I'm going to upload these sample files also so that you can practice it. So let's see what happens now. Data is printed, that is because we need to call the value function here. So I need to call it here, I need to call it here. So let's save it and see what will be the output. Okay, so Raj 1, Rajesh Kumar 2, 3. So we read 3 columns and we got the values. Okay, so let's quickly go through the process here. So first thing is you have to have the file name, then you have to call open workbook function. So what the module we are using here is XLRD. You need to import XLRD module before you can use any of these functions. Now once you get the workbook, you can get the worksheet by using either sheet by index or sheet by name. So here we are getting sheet by index. So remember the sheet index starts with 0. Again row number, column number, everything with starts with 0. Now row index I am setting to 1 because I need to read from the second row. Then here we are getting the value of a cell using worksheet.cell row comma column dot value. So this returns the value. In case if there is any integer values, the XLRD function returns as a float. So you want to convert it to int, then you have to use int function. Since we are doing the concatenation, we are converting integer to string. So I'm just printing the value of 0, first, second. That means first, second, third columns of our Excel file. So that's about reading Excel. So let's move on to the next one. That is, we'll be seeing how to read XML file. Now before we get into this, let's quickly understand the XML file structure here. Now when you say XML, every XML will have a root element. So in this case it is called students, and root element will have multiple child elements, and every child element will have tags. This is the tag and this is the attribute. So basically XML will have a root element. Under the root element there will be multiple child items. So here these are called tags. So here you can define your own tags. So this particular thing is called as tag. First name is called tag and Rajesh is called the value of this tag. Roll number is called as attribute and this is the value of the attribute. So roll numbers are attributes here. The remaining parameters are tags. Okay. So let's see how to read XML. So in order to read the XML, we are going to import a package called XML. So in that import XML dot e3 dot elementary, okay, as et. Now what we are doing here, instead of calling this much big namespace, we are just aliasing it as et. That means et is equivalent to xml.e3.element3. So this is the object which we are going to use to read our XML file. Now my file name is path plus its students.xml. Okay. So first we need to parse the XML file. So parsing is a process of reading your XML file content. Okay. So tree is equal to et dot parse file name. So once I pass it, I'm going to get the root element, that is tree dot get root. So this returns my root element. So once I get the root element, then I can pass through its child elements, that is for item in root dot find all. So what is the tag I need to search is student. Now if you see here under students, I have each main tag called student. Now this is called parent tag for these child tag. These are child tags. This is parent tag. So student is parent for first name, last name, standard and section, and students is a parent for student tags. So I'm going to search all the student tags and then we will read the child items under each of the student. So which is acts as a parent for these child items. So for each of the child, again we are going to we are going to display the roll number here because that is the attribute. So print item dot attribute, and what is my attribute name? That is roll number. Okay. So next for child in item. So now we are going to process each of the tags. Okay. So print child dot tag plus, then what is the value? That is child dot text. That's it. How to read XML. Now let's see what is the output here. So I'll just clearing out. So you can see here. So this is our attribute 1, that is my roll number. This is the attribute 1, 2, 3. So under this student Rajesh Kumar 12A. So Rajesh Kumar 12A, first name, last name, standard and section. So basically we are getting the root. First we are parsing the XML file. We are getting the root element. Then we are finding all the tags with the name student. Then we are iterating the childs of student tag, and we are printing the tag name and the value. So to print the value, we have to call child.text. Clear? So that's about reading XML file. Now let's get on to the next file reading, that is PDF. Now in order to read the PDF, so this is my PDF file here. So the same text content I have converted as a PDF. So in order to read the PDF file, there is a module called PyPDF2. So I'm going to import it. So PyPDF2 module. So this module helps us to read the PDF file. So again, my file name is equal to path plus, so my file name is sample.pdf. Okay. Now first we'll create a PDF file object. So PDF file object is equal to, I'm just opening the file pointer here, file name in read and in binary mode. So next we will read the PDF, that is read PDF is equal to ipdf2 dot PDF file reader. So I need to pass the file object, that is PDF file object. Once I read it, you can get the number of pages here. Read PDF dot get number of pages, that is get num pages. Now to get the content of each page, so we can have a loop for page in range of read PDF dot get num pages. So it loops all the pages of your PDF, right? So then my page content is equal to, I can, okay, page content is equal to page dot get page, sorry, this is read PDF, page content is equal to read PDF dot get page of page. So page is the page number what we are passing. Now print page content dot extract text. So extract text returns your content of the particular page. So let's see what happens. Right? So this is my content of the page. So what we did here, first we opened the file, then with that we passed on to PDF file reader, which returns the object for the particular PDF file. Then using get number of pages, we have printed the page number. You can see that here. So this is the page number 1 because this PDF is having only one page. You can see here only one page is there. Then we are looping through the pages of the particular PDF object, and then we are getting the page number using get page. Then using extract text, you can extract the text of a particular page. Okay, so that's about reading PDF. Let's move on to the last section, that is reading JSON file. Now this is a JSON file which I'm having here. So again it is having, so this is a JSON, basically it's an array of individual students. So each of these represents one student. So let's read the JSON. In order to read JSON, there is a module called Json which helps to read the JSON objects or even the JSON files. Now when you are practicing, if you don't find any of these modules, you can install these modules using the command pip space install, then you have to give the module name. So once I imported the module, then I need to give my file name is equal to path plus, so what is my JSON name here? That is students.json. So then open the file. File is equal to open file name in read mode. Then my JSON data is equal to JSON dot load. So there are two functions here, load and loads. So load is used to load the JSON data directly like a variable. Loads is used to load the content from a file. So file dot read. Now my JSON data is available. So it is just a couple of lines for you to load the JSON data from the file. Now let's print the content. So for student in JSON data. Okay. So print again, since the first one is the roll number, which is integer or number. Now in JSON data, if you don't put the code, so this will treat it as a integer value. Now if you give it as 1.5, then it is considered as a float value. So print str of student of roll number. Okay, then plus, so let us put couple of fields here. Student of, so my first tag is, next tag is first name, plus we'll put the last name. So your tag names have to be proper, otherwise it will give us the error. Okay, so that's it. We are done reading the JSON data. So let's save it and run it. You can see. So roll number, first name, last name. Now one important thing you need to understand here. So when JSON data comes to Python, essentially it is nothing but your list and dictionary objects. So there is nothing called any specific JSON data type here. Now if you see this structure closely, now this is the syntax what we use for a list, right? Square bracket. Now within the list, each of these is a dictionary. So essentially your JSON data is nothing but, in this case, it's a list of dictionaries. So in order to access your, it's a key value pair, to access any of the values, you have to use the key, right? So just keep that in mind when you are processing JSON data. So that's all folks we have today. So we just saw how to read. We started with text format, then we saw CSV format, then we saw XLSX format, then we saw XML format, we saw PDF format, and finally we saw JSON format. So go through this video repeatedly to understand how to go through or how to process each of these files. Now once you are able to read the content, then it is up to you to use the data for your purpose. So what you want to modify or what you want to do with the data, it is up to you. So with that, we are coming to the end of this session. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this video, and this video has given you a lot of information, and believe me, more than any application you can think of, 95% of the application have to deal with the files. Either you read the files or you write the files. So file processing is a very important aspect of the programming or any application development. So go through the video, and you can comment me, you can give me the comments what else you want to know. If you like the video, do like it, share it, and if you are not subscribed, do subscribe to the channel. So thank you so much for watching the video, and till I come back, so take care. Bye bye. Stay home. Stay safe.